He laughed at my scuffed luggage and told me I didn't belong in first class. What he didn't know was, I don't just have a ticket. I own every plane in this fleet, and I'm about to end his career before we even leave the gate. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and if you enjoy stories where arrogance meets consequences, make sure to subscribe. Now let me tell you what really happened. Airports have a hierarchy, not written, but understood. Who walks first, who waits, who gets questioned, and who doesn't. That morning, I stepped into that system carrying a worn leather bag, scuffed edges, faded handle. Not impressive, and in a place built on appearance, that made me visible. Too visible. Even before boarding, I heard it. A low voice behind me. First class line? Another answered. He probably got confused. A soft chuckle followed. I didn't turn, didn't react, because judgment reveals more about the speaker than the subject. But it didn't stop. A woman ahead glanced back again, longer this time, then whispered, "They really need better screening." That one landed. Quiet, sharp, public. And then he arrived. The pilot. Pressed uniform, perfect posture, controlled presence. He walked like the space belonged to him, and for most people, it did. He greeted a couple of passengers, nods, small smiles. Then he reached me and stopped. His eyes dropped to my bag, stayed there. Then he laughed. Short, dismissive. "First class," he said. Not a question, an accusation. I looked at him. "Yes." He shook his head slightly. "That's surprising." A few passengers turned. He gestured lightly toward my bag. "You might want to check that, for the sake of the cabin." A man behind me laughed. "Yeah, that thing's been through war," he added. More laughter. The pilot leaned closer, lower voice, more personal. "You know what this looks like?" he said. Pause. "It looks like you're trying to sneak into a space that isn't yours." Silence. Heavy. Controlled humiliation. The air attendant nearby hesitated, then stepped closer. "Sir," she said carefully, "we can assist with reassigning seats if needed." There it was, not even subtle anymore. Reassigning, removing. The pilot smiled slightly. "See," he said, "they're trying to help you avoid embarrassment." A phone lifted. Someone whispered, "Is he getting kicked out?" Another voice, "This is uncomfortable." But no one stepped in, because authority, even when wrong, controls the room. I adjusted my grip on the bag, calm, still, then said, "Are you finished?" He laughed, louder now. "Oh, he's serious." His voice carried further, drawing more attention. "You don't understand," he said. "This isn't economy where anything goes." Pause. "This is first class." He pointed subtly around. "People here expect a certain standard." Then he looked directly at me. "And you don't meet it." The words hit harder now, because the room was fully watching. Even the co-pilot, standing a few steps behind, noticed. His eyes moved between us, observing, silent. The pilot wasn't done. "You know what your problem is," he continued. Pause. "You think buying a ticket makes you equal." Pause. "It doesn't." That line cut deeper, personal, calculated. A man nearby muttered, "Someone had to say it." And just like that, the humiliation peaked. Public, layered, intentional. And that's when something shifted. Subtle, but real. A gate agent looked toward us, concerned. A quiet message passed through her headset. The co-pilot stepped slightly forward, watching more closely now, because something didn't feel right. And that's when I said, quietly, "You're concerned about standards." He smirked. "Exactly." I nodded, then added, "And reputation." He smiled wider. "Now you're getting it." I reached into my coat, slow, controlled. The entire space tightened. Phone steady, eyes locked. I pulled out my phone, dialed. "Yes," I said. Pause. "I'm at gate 14. Another pause. "Hold departure." Silence. Then, "Bring operations immediately." I ended the call. The pilot laughed, openly, louder than before. "You think you can delay a flight?" he said. "That's not how this works." I looked at him. "No," I said calmly, "it isn't." And that's when everything broke. The gate agent stood up straight. A supervisor appeared, then another, then two more, moving fast, direct, focused. The co-pilot stepped back now, fully aware something serious was happening. The room went silent, completely. They stopped in front of me, not him, me. "Sir," one said respectfully, "operations is on the way." The pilot's expression changed, slightly, then more. "What is this?" he asked. No one answered him, because he wasn't in control anymore. I turned toward him. "You mentioned belonging," I said. Pause. "And standards." I held his gaze, then said, "I agree." Silence. Deep. Measured. "I don't just fly with this airline." Pause. "I own the fleet." The words landed like weight, heavy, unavoidable. The room froze. Phones slowly lowered. One person whispered, "No way." The co-pilot's posture changed instantly, straightened, respectful. The supervisor nodded. "Majority owner," he confirmed. The pilot stepped back, instinct, his confidence collapsing. You should have said something," he muttered. I shook my head slightly. "That wasn't the test." Silence. "You already made your decision." The room listened, not watching anymore, listening. A passenger quietly said, "I misjudged him." Another looked down, ashamed, because now the perspective had shifted completely. I turned to the supervisor. "Delay the flight." He nodded. "Already in progress." A moment later, the announcement came. "Due to an operational review, this flight will be temporarily delayed." The room absorbed it. Real authority, visible, unquestioned. I looked back at the pilot. "You represent this airline," I said, calm, controlled, "and you used that position to humiliate a passenger." Pause. "For appearance." Another pause. "That ends now." Silence. I didn't raise my voice, didn't need to. "Remove him from duty." The words were final. The pilot didn't argue, couldn't, because power, real power, doesn't leave room for debate. He stepped back slowly, smaller now, not because of position, but because of exposure. As he walked away, no one followed him with their eyes, because the room had already moved on. The co-pilot stepped forward slightly, professional, composed, ready. The system corrected itself, quietly, efficiently. I adjusted my bag, same worn leather, same quiet presence, then stepped forward. And before entering the jet bridge, I paused, turned slightly, and said, just enough for the room to hear, "This was never about the luggage." Pause. "It was about how quickly you decided someone didn't belong." Longer pause. "And how wrong you were." Silence. Deep. Lasting. Because moments like that don't end when people leave. They stay. They change how people think, how they judge, how they speak. And that day, in a place built on status, people learned something uncomfortable. Respect isn't assigned by appearance, and power doesn't need to announce itself. Sometimes it waits, quietly, until it's necessary.